welcome everyone to today's interview. We're thrilled to have with us Nicholas Tatum, the author of the Jesus Freak series, a captivating blend of faith and superhero action. In this series, we follow Chad, an ordinary man called to heroism in a universe full of extraordinary characters. Today, we'll dive into the inspiration behind this unique story, explore the development of its compelling characters, and discuss what's next for this fascinating universe. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm excited and I'm glad to be here.
What inspired you to create a superhero story with a Christian protagonist? Was there a specific moment or experience that sparked the idea?
My brother and I have created an entire universe filled with characters who have incredible powers, mostly because I've always been fascinated by superheroes. When the idea for Jesus Freak first came to me, my initial thought was to create a completely separate universe for him, one where he wouldn't have to be overshadowed by all those superpowered beings. But then it hit me. Why not throw him into the mix with all these powerful characters? It'll be far more compelling to see how he manages to survive in such a situation. I thought, what if someone who is deeply rooted in their faith had to step out into the unknown with nothing but their beliefs to guide them? I pictured this ordinary man thrust into extraordinary circumstances, surrounded by heroes and villains with powers beyond his own. It's about exploring what it means to rely on a power greater than oneself when every instinct inside of you is saying give up. That's where the real story is, seeing him navigate this incredible universe with nothing but his faith and his wits.
That's such a vivid image. Was there ever a time when you thought the protagonist would have a hard time surviving his own story?
Oh, absolutely. There were definitely moments when I, as the writer, felt like stepping in and giving him a lifeline. But I realized those are the moments that make him truly relatable. When he's on the brink, facing a choice between giving up or digging deeper into his faith. It's in those moments of doubt and uncertainty that his humanity shines through. After all, when you're thinking that you're hearing God's voice telling you to do something, there's always that lingering question. Is that really you, Lord? Or is that just my own thoughts?
How did you develop the character of the Jesus Freak, particularly his struggle with his faith and his role as a hero? Was there a scene that was especially challenging to write?
The hardest scene to write was when he faces his greatest temptation, giving up his mission and returning to his ordinary life. I wanted to capture that moment when he's at his lowest, where all his doubts come rushing in. I even put myself in his shoes, imagining what would I do if I was in his situation. Would I walk away from the calling if the stakes were too high? It was tough, but that's what made him human.
And what about his dynamic with his wife? That seems like a very relatable conflict.
Absolutely. The tension between Chad and his wife reflects a common conflict where personal mission can strain relationships. Her opposition comes from a place of concern and fear for his safety, while he feels a strong sense of duty. This dynamic shows how personal choices affect loved ones and the sacrifices that are involved in following one's faith. I think many people will be able to relate to that.
The themes of faith and personal conflict seem to evolve across the 4 books. How did you manage to keep those themes fresh and engaging?
I treated each book as a different stage in the protagonist's spiritual/superhero journey. The first book is about accepting the calling. By the second book, it's about facing greater challenges that test his faith even more. The third book introduces an atheist superhero as a kind of frenemy, which adds a whole new layer of complexity and allowed me to explore the different perspectives on belief and doubt. I wanted the readers to see that faith is not a one-time decision, but more of a journey with ups and downs.
The atheist superhero sounds like a fascinating character. Was it fun writing the dynamic between them?
Oh, it was a blast. Their banter is one of my favorite parts. Imagine a devout Christian and a sarcastic atheist teaming up to save someone. It's a recipe for some entertaining dialogue and conflicts.
What was the motivation behind the shift from street-level crime to supervillains in the second book?
I wanted to escalate the stakes and show how Jesus Freak has grown. Moving from street-level crime to facing supervillains allows a more complex narrative with higher stakes. Plus, it was fun to come up with unique powers for these villains and watch Jesus Freak try to figure out how to prevail without any powers of his own. It's kind of like watching a chess match where one side has all the pieces, but the other side only has a pawn.
Sounds like a real challenge. Did you have a favorite villain to write?
Yes, without a doubt, and his name is Paltry. And I can't reveal what his powers are because uncovering it is a key part of his storyline and the appeal of his storyline. but man, that was a good one. I had to think hard about how the hero could possibly stand a chance against him. I wish I could share some of the scenes and some of the incredible ways that Paltry was using his powers, but, that would spoil stuff, and no spoilers.
Some people might think your series is just for a Christian audience. How do you address that misconception?
I wanted to write a story that blended action and adventure with universal themes like courage, redemption, and personal growth. Yes, the protagonist's faith is a key aspect, but I think the series is accessible to anyone who enjoys a good story about a hero finding his purpose and standing up for what's right.
If you could pick one scene to show someone who's skeptical, which would it be and why?
If it wasn't one of the Paltry scenes, I'd probably pick the scene where the hero has to team up with the atheist superhero. It's got action, humor, a clash of worldviews, and all that leads to some unexpected moments of mutual respect and growth.
What message do you hope readers take away from the series, especially those who might initially perceive it as just a religious text?
I hope the readers see the series as a journey of personal growth and resilience. It's about finding purpose and standing up for what's right, no matter where you start. The faith elements are woven in to enhance the narrative and deepen the audience's understanding of the character's motivation.
Can you share a bit about your writing process? Do you have any unique rituals or methods when you're developing action scenes or philosophical dialogues?
I'm a big fan of outlining, especially for action scenes. I'll even act out some of the fight sequences to make sure that they feel realistic and dynamic. For philosophical dialogues, I try to immerse myself into the character's voice. Often I write out the dialogue as a script first to ensure that it feels natural.
I can just picture you acting out a fight scene in your living room.
Oh, it's quite the sight, let me tell you. Fortunately, my family just ignores me and let me do my work.
Are there any plans for future installments or spin-offs from the Jesus Freak series? Maybe a story about the atheist superhero?
This character is just one part of a much larger comic verse that my brother and I have been building over the years. In the book, when Chad mentions heroes and villains by name, those aren't just throwaway references. They're all real characters with their own rich backstories and potential for future adventures. I'm excited to introduce this world to the readers through new content and spin-offs, particularly focusing on some of the secondary characters who've already sparked a lot of interest. And yes, the atheist superhero is definitely a character that I'd love to delve deeper into. There's so much potential there. Their dynamic has struck a chord with readers, and I think there's a lot more to explore. And believe it or not, there are even more unique characters waiting in the wings, each with their own compelling stories that I believe will be just as well received. So stay tuned. This is just the beginning.
That sounds exciting. We'll be eagerly awaiting more stories from this universe. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and the journey behind the Jesus Freak series. For those interested in diving into the series, you can find the first 3 books, Jesus Freak, The Reluctant Hero, Jesus Freak, Greater is the Power, and Jesus Freak vs. the Shield, available in both paperback and ebook formats on Amazon at amazon.com. You can also visit the author's website at www.officialjesusfreak.com. We're all looking forward to the final installment, Jesus Freak, The Final Showdown, and I wish you continued success with all your future projects.